It's the end of year 2022, and you know what it means. My best manga that I've read. But before we start, this list was extremely difficult to construct, and that's only because I have read too many stories this year, all of which can be rated 10 out of 10. And all the mentioned mangas can be someone's top 1 manga. Therefore, do not take this video as top 10 list, but rather as a rating or as a list of manga that I would recommend. Now that we are done with this, no one will surely stone me for my opinions. I'm a Hero is not a normal zombie story you're used to, with a first-class hero who can deal with every little thing. No, our main character is not a hero, but a completely ordinary man with terrible paid job who for some reason owns a shotgun and suffers from paranoia. The fact that this will be a completely different story can be seen right from the first chapter, where the first 13 pages are empty without a single dialogue, and this unpredictability is all over the manga. The apocalypse breaks out in Japan and they have no idea what the zombie even is, and the whole time they think that in few days it will all stop and they can go back to their normal lives. That's why they leave money in stores. That's why they write letters in the houses to announce what they have done or how many people they have killed. This is a story about how people will react, an apocalypse about which they have no knowledge. Tokyo Ghoul manga is perhaps the most beautiful work I've read. The style in which Sui Ishida can draw characters' mental breakdown and at the same time show beauty in disgust is something that is missing in anime. The fact that you should rather read the manga than watch the anime is probably clear. No animation in the world can properly capture the magnificence and nastiness of the author. Even though the ending wasn't exactly what we wanted, it still doesn't change the fact that the highlight for me in this manga were chapters 145 and 160 in Tokyo Ghoul Re. And I don't know what to say more about this than just the manga is better. It just is. Shinovadachi was quite a different story from other things I've read. Even though it was quite similar to Goodnight Pumpun, this story showed me a slightly different side of people. A story about the manipulation of a human mind and how a person who is too fixated on his parent can completely destroy his whole life. If I've read a story this year that speaks more with its art than with words, it's definitely Shinovadachi. I cannot even explain how using simple pencil drawing or imperfection managed to tell so well what the mental state of the main character was in. If you like action, supernatural, more action, great art and even more action with touch of humor, great! Dadadan is right for you, as it was for me with my monkey brain. Not only that you get a great story with characters who behave like people and don't have any long and unnecessary dialogue like NPCs, and at the same time, it's all wrapped up in one of the most amazing art style that I still don't understand how it's possible to produce once a week. I'm not a big fan of sports, and the biggest sport for me is the League of Legends World Championship. That's why I was quite surprised how Slam Dunk not only taught me how basketball works, but also drew me into the story so much that I have become a huge fan of Hanamachi and root for him even though it's just a manga story. The way how the art in manga keeps getting better and better from the start to finish is just great demonstration of how Takehiko Inoue is just an amazing author. And despite the fact that this story is more filled with humor than realism, thanks to this, at least we will get one of the best authors of the time. This was Comedy Gem, a top assassin who has been trained to kill all his life in a non-existent group called Fable, and now he's assigned to a new mission to be just a normal person and blend into society for a whole year. Follow this spy killer who doesn't even know what a normal life means and technically become the best at everything he does except be normal is an excellent comedy combined with quite rough action. One moment you can be laughing at how this highly trained assassin has to pretend to be tired from running to keep up the pace of a total normal person, and he looks like this. Yes, this is a face of a normal person. And then suddenly you are watching the harsh reality of the Yakuza doing their business. This story can not only make you laugh, but also make you sit on the spot and watch what the hell is going to happen. And as soon as the scene with Yuko and Akira's drunk boss came, I did not expect that this story would force me to stop reading it for a few minutes and just cry in peace. to One Piece! I love my romance comedies, but when something has a lot more comedy to it than romance, you son of a bitch, I'm in. Karashik's Kanojo, I won't fucking read the full name, was an absolute pain to my jaw and stomach. There wasn't a single chapter or single page where I didn't laugh. This isn't just the usual romance you are all used to. Nah. Fuck Kaguya-sama. Here are two people and neither of them know what it means to be couple, and their journey to discover love is just awesome and funny. And to this day, I still haven't forgotten about chapter 20. Okay, this is a little weird, but let me explain. One-shots are still a manga, only they are presented in a single chapter of 40 or 50 pages, unless you are fucking Tatsuki Fujimoto. That's why one-shots are easy to read and a lot of them aren't that awesome, but if you come across to a lot of unique and great stories, of course I have to include them in this list somehow, but considering these are very short stories and everything is told in just few pages, I just can't rate one-shots in the same way as mangas with several hundreds of chapters, and that's why I'm going to put all the one-shot stories together. And it's not so much about how the story is told or how good it is, but in what format the stories are told. And one-shots as a format, I really like this year. As I said, there are very short stories, but if you find the ones that are different from the others, you can come across to some amazing hidden gems, such as all works by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Look Back, Just Listen to the Song, Teteleposen, Yogen no Nauta, Shikaku, Sakaki-kun, Koi wa Momoku, but also from authors that are not Tatsuki Fujimoto. For example, Yorimichi, Rengaku no Ashe, Yusha Goiku no Keirimichi. I hope I pronounce it correctly. These are all the one-shots that I found very different from the others. And please don't kill me for saying that one chapter story is better than 1000 chapter One Piece. Blam is just something different. I don't even know how to properly explain this story other than just weird and awesome. If you choose to read Blam, I'm strongly recommending to focus on all the things that are shown to you and not just blindly skip pages without dialogue. Because what makes Blam so unique is how nothing is explained, but at the same time there's almost too much said. Each person will have a completely different experience and each person will have a completely different view of the story. And I feel like Blam was made just for me. I love stories where almost nothing is said and it is left to the reader and their imaginations to create their own story, to fill in the unanswered questions himself with the help of dialogues and actions that were available to him. And this was Blam, a special, wonderful, mysterious story that is just waiting for the next reader to create his own completely new story. The best mystery detective story of all time. 20th Century Boys remind me again why I loved mystery stories so much. There is nothing overly rushed and they are taking their time with everything. If the characters don't know a certain thing, the same applies to you. The story won't help you answer the questions at all. And you just have to wait for the finale itself, where everything is finally explained. I have no idea how it was still possible that after 200 chapters, where I told myself that there can be anything that will surprise me, then they drops a brand new bomb on me that I didn't even know about until now, and I'm literally 19% in the story. How the fuck is this possible? The more I've read it, the more I felt I was in the world and tries to come up with all the questions by myself. This was the best read so far, and it kept me asking questions until the very end. I have never read a similar story that had such an enormous amount of depression in it. Goodnight Pumpun is not a story to be enjoyed or just be recommended, but how Goodnight Pumpun can tell a story of a person with just bad decisions in life will open your eyes to your personal life and can change you tremendously. The way in which this manga is illustrated adds value to the realism, where many panels are real photos of people converted into manga format. If there is a story that can change a person's outlook on life, it is definitely this story. But at the same time, I don't recommend anyone to read it because you will never recover from it. Vagabond is a series often associated with Berserk as they are quite similar. They both have strong main character who is traveling throughout the world to find himself and gradually improve in his craft and as a person. But here is where it begins and ends. Vagabond is completely different from Berserk, because Vagabond will offer you a different view of a person who is obsessed with his craft and believes so much in his success that he will embark on a journey to become the strongest under the sun. And on this journey he will meet a huge number of people, whether weaker than him or on the contrary much stronger, who will open the way to questions. What does it really mean to be the strongest under the sun? What is the meaning of this marking? And is it really the path I wanted to take? Vagabond is a story about a samurai in search of himself, but in reality it is an extremely slow, boring and philosophical story about someone who set out on a self-chosen path from which he's slowly straying off because he realizes what his path really is. This story is done by already mentioned author Takehiko Inoue, and here you can really see his shift in the narrative from his previous work Slam Dunk. Vagabond is not finished, and we haven't received any updates regarding Musashi's story for a long time, but this is only due to the fact that Musashi was not the only one who was changing as a human, but at the same time the author himself improved in his craft and perception of this story. Before we go to the first place, I just want to quickly mention a couple of mangas that didn't make it into this list. First being Ayashimon, short story about a man who overtrained and now has superhuman strength. And this story would have easily made it to this list if it hadn't been for Shonen Jump and their decision to prematurely end this story. Then there is Akumetsu, a story about student who just getting rid of Japanese most influential politicians that just steals everyone's money and get Japan into more and more debt. I'm not gonna say anything else or I would just spoil it everything. Then there's Jagan. Do you like superpowers, brutality, and self-improvement? Cool, then just go fucking read it. Last one is Vinland Saga. Okay, and now don't get me wrong, I really like Vinland Saga. It's just that I don't like the first part that much, and I really like the Con Thorfinn, who at least finally has a greater motivation than revenge. And if I could, I would put it in 15th place, but that would be too long. So please don't send me any death threats. I'm weird, okay? I know it. Goodbye Eri is just something that I cannot explain in just few minutes. And if I were to talk about everything this manga does, it would take me for several hours. And yes, I know that one-shots had their own category, so it's quite weird to see Goodbye separately. But Goodbye Eri was absolutely unique in its story and presentation. And despite the fact that it's just a story of 200 pages, this was enough for me to be invested in all those characters. Mentioning over and over how Tatsuki Fujimoto is an absolute genius, we all already know that. But it is still necessary to mention for everyone to know how amazing and different stories he can create. And Goodbye Eric took the best parts of all his previous works and just polished them to perfection. Story, characters, references, supernatural, art style, paneling, page composition, facial expressions, ending. You could talk about all of these for hours, and even that would still not be enough to clarify everything that this short story was able to do. Create such an extremely unique, awesome story that I simply will never stop talking about.